Hello everybody, Pigeon back with another video. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite decks that got a little bit of a switch up to it. So I always played my Mono-red Etali deck, which I always thought was a ton of fun. I think it's on this channel. It's just called Gimme All Your Loot after is like Himcules or something like that. It was the villain from My Life as a Teenage Robot. That's where I got the reference from. But this deck is basically the other Etali that I used to play, but with green in it. Instead of it being more focused around extra combats and kind of utilizing that ability to do that stuff, instead this one has green in it. So, and the new Etali works a little bit differently. So we'll talk about him real quick. The main point of this deck is the front side of Etali. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on in this deck. So I apologize if you're looking for the back side of Etali, but I'll talk about him. But I don't think I've ever done it in this deck, and I've played about 20 games with it. So it's 5 colorless, 2 red. It's an Elder Dinosaur 7/7 trample, and whenever Etali Primal Conqueror enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of those spells without paying their mana cost. And you could pay 9 and a Phyrexian to flip him over. He flips over into an 11/11 trample, indestructible, that gives that many poison counters. So he becomes like a one-shot kill kind of thing if you could pull it off. I was more interested in the front side of Etali because this kind of plays off of his other ability that the other Etali has, which he is also in this deck. But I like the ability of being able to copy him and do different things like that, copy his ability to be able to steal as many cards as I can. The goal is kind of to play him and start creating an insane amount of copies and just blowing up the board with how many cards you get to steal and just creating too much value for anybody to actually overcome. But it does have a couple combos in him in this deck, so we'll kind of hit on it. So we'll hop right into it. We have 23 creatures in the deck. We have Birds of Paradise. It's a 1 green, 0/1 flyer that taps for green. Bloom Tender, 1 colorless, 1 green, Elf Druid, 1/1 that when you tap it gives you 1 mana Monk's Permanent you control, which is only going to be green or red in this deck. Delina Wild Mage, which is the first thing you're going to see about creating copies. 3 colorless, 1 red. When it attacks, choose target creature control, then roll a d20. If you roll 1 through 14, you're just going to create 1 copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking, isn't legendary. It's going to get exiled at the end of combat. If you get 5 through 20, you're going to create a token that's doing that, and you're going to roll it again. So this can give you the ability to attack and then create a copy of Etali or any other value piece that exists out here that you'll see. Very, very good card for this deck. Dockside, you know them. ETBs, you get treasure equal to the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. Just helps us get Etali out faster. Dual Caster Mage, which is one of the combo pieces for this deck. It's 1, 2 red, flash, human wizard, 2/2, that when it ETBs, you can copy target instant sorcery. You may choose new targets. This allows you to go infinite with things like, what the heck's it called? Twin Flame and Heat Shimmer that allow you to create infinite hasty attacking dual caster mages. It's also just in here because it's just a good value piece in general, so why not? Etali, this is the serial version. Really big fan of this art set in general. When he attacks, you get to exile the top card of everybody's library, and then you may cast them right then. I think it says it on the back, but it says it in a weird way. Yeah, it's in that like little box down there. And then he's just a 4 colorless, 2 red, 6/6. Eternal Scourge, which has to deal with the other part of the combo in this deck, which is what is it called? Food Chain. Essentially, you can cast it from exile. That's all that matters. You're able to cast it from exile and then get rid of it with Food Chain, which can create you infinite mana, which then allows you to cast Etali infinitely, which allows you to infinitely take every person's cards out of their library, essentially making it so nobody has any cards in their library. You also steal everything that they own, and if you don't win, they have no library. So, pretty fun card. I mean, it takes a little bit to get it to go off. Obviously, it's a couple pieces, and it's not the main part of the deck, but it is nice to have win cons in your deck that are going to help you out. Felt on the Third Path, 1 colorless, 2 red, Human Artificer, 2/3. pay 2 and a red, tap it, create a token that's a copy of a creature in your graveyard, except for it's an artifact in addition to its type. It has haste, sack it at the beginning of the next end step. It's very nice to be able to create a copy of something like a Dockside just to get some value, a Dualcaster to steal somebody's thing, or it's nice to create something like a Delina and bring Delina back from the graveyard for a turn to be able to create copies and do different things with. Even something as simple as a Solemn Simulacrum, just to be able to get another land and help ramp out, can make a really big difference in this deck, because our commander is a 7-drop, and if he dies, he's going to cost 9 next time. And he's probably going to die. He's a massive target. If you've never played Etali Primal Storm, this is worse, because you will get targeted twice as hard as you will playing that deck. Flame Rush Rider, 4 colorless, 1 red. When it attacks, create a token that's a copy of another target tapped and attacking creature. Another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking. Essentially, you want to create a copy of Etali with this, and then when it ETBs, you get all the triggers and everything, and then continue with your combat. Finhorn Elves, 1 green, taps for green. Goblin and Archomancer, red and a green, makes it so your red and green spells cost 1 less. Jix the Troublemaker, or Jaxus, I'm sorry. 3 colorless, 1 red, human warrior, 2/3 that you can dash, but you can pay 1 red, tap, and discard a card to create a token that's a copy of another creature control that has haste, and when it dies, draw a card, and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. You can only do as a sorcery. Again, this is just in here to either blitz out important thing already on the battlefield, like a Dockside or something, or most importantly, to get you another Etali. Clothis, God of Destiny, 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 green, indestructible god, 4/5. As long as your devotion to red or green is less than 7, he's not a creature. At the beginning of pre-combat main phase, exile a card from a graveyard, either get a red, get a green, or gain 2 life and deal 2 damage to each opponent. It's a nice little value piece. It's interactive by removing things from people's graveyards. If it's something like you see, if someone's playing a graveyard deck, it's nice to just be like, okay, it's my turn. I'm going to remove that piece that's kind of annoying that could come back. And most importantly, you get red or green if it's a land. So it's very nice. Llanowar Elves, it's a green for green. Mirage Phalanx, 4 colorless, 2 red, human soldier, 4/4 that has soulbound. So as long as it's paired with another creature, each of those creatures have, at the beginning of combat in your turn, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it has haste and loses soulbound, exile it at the end of combat. Again, same thing. Value piece that's already on the battlefield, but most likely you want to pair this with Etali and then create a copy of Etali, which is very, very nice. We'll go to Ortheon, Hero of Lavabrink. 3 colorless, 1 red, legendary creature. It's a human soldier, 3/3. You could pay 1 and a red, tap it to create 1 copy of a creature, or you could pay 6 colorless, 3 red, and tap him to create 5 copies of a creature. So in general, being able to value out something like a Dockside is pretty insane. It is only a sorcery, which kind of holds this card back from being like broken. But being able, and I have done it before, one time I was able to get that bottom ability off and get 5 copies of Etali on the stack. It was absolutely insane to be able to do that. But in general, just being able to pay 1 and a red to create 1 token copy of him is still pretty good. I mean, that's the point of the deck. Ragavan gets you treasures, exile top card of that player's library, you may cast it, and you can dash it. It's a really good value piece to just start getting some treasures and helping out our commander that our commander costs a lot. Selvala, you know her. She gives you a bunch of mana and can draw you cards. She's very nice for this deck. Solemn gets you a land, a basic tapped, and then if it dies, you may draw a card. Squee, just like Eternal Scourge, this goes infinite with Food Chain, giving us infinite mana, allowing us to infinite Etali, blah, blah, blah. Teamer Sabretooth, very nice piece because it allows us to bounce back that Etali to our hand to recast it, to re-ETB it, or it can also go infinite with Dockside as long as Dockside creates more than 4 treasures. It'll just always net an extra treasure, netting us infinite, allowing us to play Etali, bounce Etali, play Etali, bounce Etali, and win the same way as the other ones. Tinderball, 1 green. Later, you can pay 0, sack it, and get 2 red. Or you can pay a red, sack it to deal 2 damage to target creature it blocks. You're not going to do that ability. You want it there for the mana. And then this is Urbrask, the Hidden, I believe. It makes your creatures enter with haste and opponent's creatures enter tapped. I believe, and their artifacts too. Well, that's funny. It doesn't say. Oh yeah, show normal text. There we go. No, just creatures enter tapped. Okay. So that's it for the creatures. As you can see, most of them are either things that create extra Etalis, infinite pieces, or mana. That's about it. Nothing too special here. We'll get on to the sorceries. Sorceries are also pretty straightforward, so I'll try to kind of hit on them pretty fast. I don't want to bore you guys out. Blast Act, cost 1 less for each creature, deal 13 damage to each creature. Nice board wipe. Cultivate gets us a land on the battlefield and a land in our hand. They're both basics. Etali takes a while to get going, so I'm fine with the Cultivate because it guarantees me a land down and a land for next turn. I don't mind playing this deck a little bit slow because that's the whole point of it, is to be slow, build up, and have an explosive turn. Faithless Looting, draw 2, discard 2, you can flash it back. Gamble, search your library for a card, put it in your hand, shuffle, and then discard a card at random. Heat, Shimmer, and Twin Flame do the same thing. They create copies of a creature. Twin Flame can be Strive to create more. This is mostly going to be used to create you a shizload of treasures, almost cursed, with Dockside or something like that, or you're going to get another Etali, or it can go infinite with Dual Caster, so versatile. Hull Breach, destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or both. Jessica's Will, get a bunch of red, exile the top 3 cards, you may play them this turn, or if you have your commander, do both. Kadama's Reach is Cultivate. Pirate's Pillage, 3 colorless, 1 red, discard a card, draw 2, create 2 treasures. Seize the Spoils, 2 colorless, 1 red, discard a card, draw 2 cards, create 1 treasure. So kind of some more ramp versatility things, help us out, help even out our deck. Our instances, also pretty straightforward, nothing really to talk about, I'll blow through them fast. Beast Within, destroy a permanent, they get a 3/3, big score, 3 and a red, discard a card, draw 2, create 2 treasures. Bolt Bend allows us to change the target of a spell or ability if we control a creature power 4 or greater, which is Etali. Chaos Warp, choose a permanent, they shuffle in their library, shuffle it, reveal the top card. If it's a permanent, put it on the battlefield. Heroic Intervention, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. Return in Nature, it's one of my favorite mono green removals. I'm really surprised a lot more people don't run it. Just 1 colorless, 1 green, and then you get to either destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or exile a card from my graveyard. I always recommend people play more Return to Nature in all their decks. It's a versatile piece. I understand that it's maybe not the best, but being able to destroy an artifact or enchantment or exile a card from a graveyard is very important. There's a ton of graveyard decks nowadays, so it's nice to be able to run a card like this. Unexpected Windfall, 2 colorless, 2 red, instant, discard a card, draw 2, create 2 treasures. If you guys didn't notice, they printed a lot of these cards that all do basically the same thing, which is really good for this deck and kind of funny. Discard that land you don't need 8 of, and then create or draw 2 and create 2 treasures is really nice, especially at instant speed. Valakut Awakening, it's either a land that enters tapped, or you can put any number of cards from your hand at the bottom of your library and then draw that many +1. Worldly Tutor, 1 green, search for a creature, put it on top. Or shuffle, then put it on top. So pretty straightforward. Artifacts, I'm going to highlight the ones that are important and then just kind of blow through the ones that aren't. So Arcane Signet, Gruul Signet, Mana Vault, Thrawn Dynamo, Talisman of Impulse, Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, and Jeweled Lotus are all the same thing. They give you mana. Nothing to talk about there. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots are in here to be able to give haste and some kind of hexproofy style to it to be able to help with most of our creatures in our deck. Not to mention just being able to, like when you play Etali, you're going to be stealing cards off people's libraries. Sometimes you just get a big, nasty creature. So having something like Lightning Greaves to throw on that creature to give it haste is really gross. I have played against my friend before and stolen his Ulamog and then just put it onto the battlefield and then just threw Lightning Greaves on it and swung at him with it. So those kind of things just happen in a deck like this. Blade of Selves is an enchantment that gives equipped creature Myriad. So when you attack, you're going to be able to create a copy at each opponent also. Very nice if you're able to pay 4, put it on a Dockside and get 2 more Docksides. It's also just nice when, like I said, you're playing other people's cards, so you're going to have a lot of big creatures potentially. A really good, potentially helpful creature, and getting 2 more of them is very nice. Good card. Conjurer's Closet, beginning of each end step is going to blink a creature. very good for Etali, good for the value pieces in the deck. Curse Mirror enters as about, you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature, so pay 3, enters as an Etali, enters as a Dockside, whatever. Later on, it's a Mono Rock, but be careful if you play this as a copy of Etali, it's going to die the legendary rule. Golden Argosy, 4 colorless, vehicle, legendary, it's a 3/6. When it attacks, you can blink a creature. Well, it comes back at the beginning of the next end step, but it's basically a blink. So, that's what it's in there for. Panharmonicon, doubles ETBs, Strike Resonator, pay 2, tap it, and copy Etali's trigger. And then Scroll Rack, pay 1, tap it, exile any number of cards from your hand face down, put that many cards on top of your library from into your hand, and then put those cards back on top. It basically allows you to stack the top of your deck how you would like, which is nice in Etali because if you want a certain card on top, put that card on top and then create a token copy of Etali, and then boom, there you go. So the artifacts are pretty straightforward. Enchantments, we have a couple that are interesting in here. Bitter Reunion, when ETBs discard a card, draw 2. You could pay 1 and give all creatures you control haste until the end of turn. The haste is really relevant when you start getting a bunch of cards. If you can play that one guy up there, it creates 5 copies, and you create 5 copies of Etali, and then throw out a bunch of creatures, and then pay 1 and give them all haste, it's enough to end the game. City of Solitude makes it so people can only play spells and abilities during his or her turn. This is a nice one to play when you're about to do a really good turn. Throw this out and then be like, okay, you guys aren't going to do anything on my turn. I'm going to cast a lot of spells. Fires Yavimaya, you can sack it to give a creature +2/+2, but it importantly gives creatures you control haste. Food Chain, important combo piece for the deck if you want to go for that route. Rhythm of the Wild, just an insane card for this deck. Makes it so creature spells can't be countered, so no one can ever counter Etali, which I've actually won a game just by having Rhythm of Wilds out and creating infinite mana. It created a point where nobody could counter Etali because nobody can. So I get to do whatever I want and I win. Non-token creatures you control also have riots that can enter with haste if you would like, which is very important. Speaking of haste, Rising of the Day, 2 colorless, 1 red, gives all creatures you control haste and legendary creatures +1/+0. And then Sylvan Library is, of course, just a value piece. You can pay 4, you get a draw a card, draw an additional 2, pay 4 for each card you'd like to keep in your hand, or just stack them how you want and draw your card for a turn. As far as lands go, I'm taking a quick look. The only one I think that's important in this is Rogue's Passage. All the other ones are just basically lands, Ancient Tomb, you get your fetches to be able to help fill out the deck, blah, 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 nothing there. But Rogue's Passage allows you to make a big creature unblockable. This is what I was talking about. I've never done it in the deck out of like the 20 or so games I've played, but if you flip over Etali and you give Etali unblockable, you just kill someone in one shot. No reason not to have it in the deck. I said I would start showing this in the video. I'm sorry, I skipped past it in the other one, but here's some of the number of card informations. It's 50 red, 31 green, so I think I have that split pretty fairly. No, I actually have more green. I think I have more green, though, because you want to get out those early turn monodorks and different things with the green. Once you have enough, you don't really need it. You can get out the cultivate to get the reds you need to and other things, so it's not that big of a deal. That's weird how that always changes when I come down here. Like, this would be like an example of a starting hand. This is a pretty decent starting hand. You have Rhythm of the Wild and stuff, Bolt Bend for the future. You could throw out this early on. Of course, you're going to want to play like Ancient Tomb into the Forest so you can cultivate to get yourself set up for those later turns. But this is not a bad hand at all. I mean, it's pretty decent. It's pretty standard. You don't have a monodork, that's the only thing that sucks, but having the cultivate enough to play, it's pretty nice. So that's my Etali list. Like I said, it's mostly my version of the list. I tend to not look at deck lists online, so I don't know if this is more up the alley of what the normal deck list is, or if this is just my own creation. I really don't know. I just like Etali's ETB and threw in as many cards as I could that either value with it or do something with it. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys, like I said, like if you like Etali, if you like stealing things, if this is up your alley right here, then this is a really, really fun deck to play. I usually get Etali out early. I usually create a lot of copies of Etali, and my friends usually are not very happy at the end of it. Not in a bad way. I mean, they enjoy me being able to have explosive big turns, but when you play 7 cards off of someone's library, understandably, they're not the happiest, we'll say. But I enjoy it. It's a ton of fun. And if you guys like it, this price tag looks a little high. It's just because some of these cards are different versions of cheap cards. Atali is like probably a 30-cent card. Bloom Tender is not necessary. This deck budget could be severely lowered by removing cards like that, removing Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt and stuff, and Mana Vault. And you could replace them with other Mana Dorks and different creatures to still help get Atali out faster. So don't let the price tag scare you. You can easily build this deck for much, much, much less. And yeah, so that's it. That's my Etali now with green. If you guys like the deck, let me know. If you have any recommendations, or if you play Etali a different way, I'd love to see it too. I like seeing different lists for commanders I already played, just to see kind of like your approach to it and what you do. But all right, I'll see you guys in the next one.